Hey, welcome to the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden, your host. Glad you could join me. Yeah, that's right. We are actually online in video now as well. So hope you're enjoying this first attempt at taking something to the next level in the podcast world. And please do tell your friends. And if you're watching this on video, don't forget, there's a whole bunch of audio episodes as well. So check your usual spots for podcasts. Great show in store for you today. Late season pheasants. I'll have a step-by-step tutorial thanks to my good friend Al Gadoury at 6X Outfitters in Montana. If anybody can get you into China birds, he's the one. We'll be doing everything from habitat to habits, shot size to shooting tips, all this week right here on the Upland Nation podcast. In our Fix It segment, had a great message from a friend who asked me about a dog that just wouldn't cooperate when it came to that last couple feet of retrieve. Well, I'll have some, hacks, and then some other advice on how to formulate a solution long-term as well. And then in our social media segment, I asked you to share some great places you've been. Some of your photos and videos are incredible. I'll be sharing those as well right here on the first video edition of the Upland Nation podcast. We're brought to you by Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, True Lock Choke Tubes, Purina Pro Plan Sport Dog Food, Sage and Breaker Gun Care Products, Cable Gangs Tie-Out Systems, Pointer Shotguns, Heartland Lodge, and High Viz Sights. See what you've been missing. Well, you can't tell from looking at me, but I'm nursing a broken rib, and it was worth the pain and inconvenience, which is really what it amounted to. Yeah, for a while there, it only hurt when I breathed, but I'm over that part and looking towards the next hunting trip already. In fact, doctor's shaking his head, but I'm going anyway. Quick, funny story. It ended up well, but it started as a mess. We finally found the spot we were looking for after 2 hours of trying to find the gate and then the combination to get through the gate for this walk-in parcel that we got permission for. When we finally got there, we hunted hard, had a great hunt in the morning. In the afternoon, what was left of the morning, in the afternoon, we were headed up one of these wicked chucker slopes. A lot of angle to it, but pretty good footing, except for a few spots where you could tell, there was a spring or a seep, and it was tall grass. It was brown by now, but it was still good looking as a place to hunt. So I drew the short straw, and I was going to walk through it, hopefully with a dog or two. The moment I set foot into that tall grass, I realized everything had been covering up basically a field of rocks. I stepped wrong on one pointy rock, landed wrong on another pointy rock, and you know how that hurts so bad you see black around the edges? I did. Laid there for 2-3 minutes, then started checking, making sure everything was still intact. I was in one piece. And at that point, the birds were starting to fly. I got up after a few steps. All was good. We hunted the rest of the day. Probably the best afternoon chucker hunt I've ever been on. I'll tell that in a magazine story very soon, and maybe on an insider edition of the Upland Nation podcast. But for now, happy ending, more to come. I asked you about some of the places you go and why you go there. And boy, oh boy, was I impressed with some of your photography skills and even videography in a couple places. If you're not on social media with us, go to Wing Shooting USA or the Upland Nation podcast pages. I'm looking at both of them every day, taking a look at all your comments. And then when we get something worth sharing, I'm sharing it with you. John Lewis shows me a great eastern Montana sharp-tailed country photo. There's a dog in the background. Well, it's a red dog. Hey, a Hungarian dog. Good for you, John. More power to you. Beautiful dog, on point, 12 o'clock tail, what there is of the tail, of course. Beautiful shin-high grass, a few beautiful copses of woods and brush in the distance. Nice. Very great lighting, by the way. Stagecoach Pointers sends us a video, and it is cool. Boy, I miss that country down there in Arizona. There it is for you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Lynn Glock, always good to see your shots. Wide open spaces. That might be the understatement of the day. Harvey's story. Yeah, we remember when West Nile was still, well, we didn't know what it was, and that was probably a good thing. Now it is, but that's a great shot too. Thank you. In the winter, hoarfrost, or what else do we call that? There's another name for it. Anyway, beautiful shot of you and your dog. Looks like a wire hair to me, with a few dead chuckers next to it. I love it. Thank you so much. There's so much more there. I'm going to end up with Joe Rundell and his great photo of I'll call it a skid road. That's what we call it out here. And some fall colors. And then finally, if we race down to the very bottom, at least at this point, the very bottom, Ryan Leonard. Once in a while, everything just comes together, doesn't it, Ryan? Beautiful shot. Half lit, half shadow. Hey, that swale at the bottom looks like the one where I took my tumble. Anyway, good job, everybody. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. And it gives, it kind of brings, I don't know what kind of feeling you get when you see other people's great scenic shots. The hair on the back of my neck stands up, and I just want to go there. I just want to go there. Maybe you do too. Thanks so much for sharing. We'll have more. So check in at one of the Facebook or the Instagram pages, even Wing Shooting USA on, what's it called now? X, all of the above. That part of the show brought to you by TrueLockChokes.com. Talked a lot about sub gauges. I'll give it one more shot for you. If you're still trying to figure out why you're missing so many birds and you're shooting a side-by-side, this is an offer I have never seen anywhere else. I hope you will take advantage of it. And that is straight from Scott Truelock. He says, if you have a side-by-side sub-gauge gun and you would like to put Truelock chokes in there, well, if they don't have a set of flush chokes right now, they will make you a pair at the same price as you would pay for regular extended chokes. No extra charge for making those just the way you want them. Go to the website, TrueLockChokes.com. Get the phone number, call Scott Truelock directly and tell them what you're looking for. I'll bet they can match you up with a set they already have. And if they don't, they'll make them for you. TrueLockChokes.com. And of course, new, old, in between, if you're putting choke tubes in your gun, you better lubricate those threads very carefully with something from sageandbreaker.com. Whether it's their firearms grease back in stock or CLP as another alternative, they've got all sorts of other choices when it comes to the stuff you use to care for your guns, including the best bore cleaning tool that I've ever seen. Soon, a more traditional bore cleaner with a rod and brushes, all coming from sageandbreaker.com. If you want to find out more and be in on that first set of orders, sign up for the mailing list at sageandbreaker.com. Well, through the miracles of modern technology, guess who is with me from Lewistown, Montana? My good friend Al Gadoury. 6X Outfitters is where you learn more about him. 6xoutfitters.com. Al, this is so fun. It's not as good as hunting with you, but it's better than a phone call, isn't it?
It's better than hunting today.
Oh, really?
Very cold with the 30-mile-an-hour wind blowing.
Yeah, I'm glad you're indoors. I think you've been hunting for the last couple days. We'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah. But why don't you just introduce us to your operation? hunting and fishing side, I was looking at some great pictures of yours from over on maybe Nelson Spring Creek or something like that. So bring us up to speed on 6X Outfitters.
Yeah, I do, sight fishing on the spring creeks in Livingston, Nelson's, Depews, and Armstrong Spring Creek. Usually late June through July. Most of my business now is with the bird hunting in Lewistown, Montana, central part of the state. We start with huns, sharptails, and then early October, we're doing pheasant hunting. Yeah, we also get huns and sharptails during the pheasant season. This year is a tough year for the pheasants.
Yeah.
We had, it was good for sharptails and huns, but I don't know what happened with the pheasant hatch. We get some young birds that are large, and we get some young birds they're barely roosters. You can barely tell what they are still.
Wow.
Very small. And the biggest change was the cover this year, better than it's ever been. Grass up to your waist, a heavy berry crop everywhere. So there's nothing to concentrate the birds. And it's a tough go walking through that stuff, trying to find them.
Well, let's hope. I told the story earlier on the podcast about walking through that stuff and finding a really pointy rock with my left lower rib.
Yeah.
But you're probably not going to do that. But that's astounding. The cover's good, the food crop is good, and you just hit the nail on the head. There's no reason for birds to be anywhere in particular, right?
No, nothing to concentrate them yet. Winter's coming, but September, I didn't think it'd ever come. Oddly enough, it's a windy area. We didn't have any wind in September, and we had 85, 90-degree temperatures every day, no clouds, and absolutely no wind. So we'd have a couple of hours of good sending in the morning, and after that, you're just marching around trying to find them. Dogs had a really tough time pointing them. So
yeah,
really nothing to do about it.
You mentioned Sharpies in particular. Of course, one of the reasons I didn't go out there was I'd been hearing a lot of stories much like this. Were they as scattered and were the numbers decent that you could tell, or could you even get a number on that?
The numbers are there.
Yeah.
And the numbers are there with the huns too. The coveys were big, and that didn't mean we got shooting at them. I think there were a lot of old birds in those coveys, a bad influence on the young ones. We had them flushing 200 or 300 yards away opening day, and these were birds that hadn't been bothered at all. But you'd find sharptails in one field one day, go back a few days later, they're not there. They're miles away. There was no pattern to behavior at all.
Yeah.
But the birds are there. The pheasants were not there.
Okay. Well,
we're down.
So we got hope on that side, and we'll keep our fingers crossed on the pheasants.
Yeah.
Good luck on that. You brought up a point that I think is worth bringing up again, and why don't you relate a story regarding shotgun safety that probably everybody ought to pay attention to?
Yes, everybody has to pay attention to shotgun safety, and I had a couple experienced hunters at different times. I noticed they're hunting with their safety off, and when I asked them if they knew that, they said, "Oh yeah, we've done that our whole life." And I said, "Nobody ever said anything to you?" And I said, "Well, it's unacceptable. It has to stop. We're simply not going to do it." And they really had nothing to say about that. But I was shocked. I can't imagine anyone doing that. I mean, how many times have you tripped and fell with your gun? How many times have you noticed that the barrel's pointing in the wrong direction? How many times do mechanical things fail? And my policy has always been, if you see someone doing something that's unsafe, it's your responsibility to tell them right away. And it doesn't matter if they're old enough to be your grandfather. You got to tell them, because they get tired and they get more careless.
Absolutely. It happens all the time. I wasn't tired, but I did tip over and hit that rock pretty hard.
Yeah.
I had gone a step further than that. Safety is on, gun is open.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the real joys of shooting a break open gun. You always know when that gun is completely and totally safe.
Yes.
But boy, in a lot of ways, this is what you do. I'm thinking of other people in similar situations. I'm the same way. I check all that stuff all the time. We've hunted with a lot of kids over the years, especially on TV. And there's no such thing as being paranoid about shotgun safety. I agree. Thanks for the warnings.
Well, the most careless hunters I've seen have been the older hunters.
Yeah.
They've been getting away with it their whole life.
Yeah.
You just got to tell them, no, you have to unload that gun before you cross that fence. You can't lean it up against the truck. You got dogs running around. Don't lay it on the ground. Dog could step on the trigger. A lot of things can happen.
Yeah, and what can go wrong, as they say, will go wrong.
Yes.
So thanks again. And kids, don't try that at home. Al Gadoury, we have had so much fun. I'll never forget in particular one mixed bag day where we actually did shoot Huns, Sharpies, and ringnecks in the same day out there. Mm-hmm. That will be indelibly etched in my memory forever. But in particular, I'm learning more and more about this late season pheasant hunting, and most of us are really intrigued by pheasants in general. So let's just do a kind of an instructional video in this case. Hey, on late season pheasants, and of course that will change depending on where you are or on any given day. It could be a really bluebird day somewhere.
Late season pheasant hunting is about the only pheasant hunting I get to do, because
that's right. Yeah,
during the early season, and I'd say the best day I ever had pheasant hunting was I was hunting during the first snowfall of the year. The bulk of the pheasants are young of the year, and that first snowfall, they've never seen snow before. They don't know what to do. They don't want to move. They hold better than they will at any other time of the year. So that's the day you want to be out there. That first snowfall. In a couple of days, they get used to it and they run like they always do.
I've never heard anybody talk about that. That is a revelation to me. And I just love the idea of being the first guy in the field after a snow like that. I typically am starting to think like a bird when it comes to weather changes in particular. Yeah. So if there's a strong wind or the temperature drops, or like you said, if the snow falls, I think the birds are going to do what I would do at that time. Look for someplace better.
Last year, our first snowfall occurred when the temperature dropped to 25 below zero the same day. And I had a client who had a young Griffon, a year and a half old, was doing everything right. It pointed probably 25 pheasants. Now, wow. The reason it had to point 25 to shoot 3 was the poor guy's gun kept freezing up. You never knew if it was going to go off when he tried to pull the trigger. And that's got to throw off your shooting quite a bit.
I've been there.
But, the dog would point. They would not get up. I'd have to go in the brush and give him a kick to get him moving. And so a lot of times I was in the way, he couldn't shoot. But having the gun freeze up, and he had 2 guns, they both froze up.
Just out of curiosity, because I've been behind shooters like that on the sporting clays range, where they were shooting semi-automatics, and every time the gun wouldn't shoot, they just spray more WD-40 inside it. What kind of guns was he using?
He was using very nice guns, over and unders, well maintained. He did everything right. It was just the conditions. It was, sub-zero. It was foggy. It was snowing. It was nasty. Wearing heavy gloves, the only way you could keep warm enough to shoot.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. The dog had a wonderful time.
I imagine so, considering how many bird contacts it got.
Yeah.
Glad you finally had a happy client at the end of the day too. Those are days when you'd much rather be somewhere else, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, the best conditions are, late season are nice weather most of the time. Strong winds are just not good. You're only hoping a strong wind is hunt sheltered areas and hope for the best. But when it's really windy, those birds are jumpy.
Yeah.
A lot of birds flush wild, and I mean flushing at 500-600 yards where you have no chance at all. So what I try to do most of the time is block the pheasants, if you're hunting with another person. And you can start by, if one of the hunters is blocking and not moving, he needs to hide. He doesn't want to stand out in the open. He wants to be in a position so those pheasants are not going to see him until they're in gun range. And if people stand out in the open, the pheasant peeks out of the cover, sees them, runs back in, he plans his escape, and he gets away.
Yeah. If you have blockers, there's still two escape routes, right and left.
Right.
And I've seen that. I remember doing that with you on some Sharpies in a sagebrush flat once.
Yeah.
But this is something that I've talked about. I actually wrote about this, I think, somewhere. Even a 2-man hunt, you can put a blocker somewhere. So if it's you and a client or you and 2 clients, you're going to put somebody as a blocker. Where are you going to put that person based on the cover you're working and distance from the other hunter?
At the end of the cover. And, it can be a quarter mile. It can be 200 yards, just depending on the cover. But he's got to be hidden. And what I tell the blocker is, when you see the other hunter 100 yards away, make sure he sees you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That way, you've got him cornered. Somebody's going to get a shot. It's going to be within 50 yards of somebody, and usually closer than that. And you must be quiet. I don't think anything scares birds more than the sound of your voice. They live in an area where they don't hear people much. Don't yell point. Don't yell hen. Doesn't help it. It's not hard to tell a rooster from a hen, especially late season. I'm sure there are circumstances where they're backlit, sun's in your eyes or something, you can't see them, but it's better to be quiet because every time you make a sound, you're telling that pheasant exactly where you are, and he's making up his mind. He's not going to come anywhere near you.
I remember reading once that turkeys have incredible hearing. Pheasants and other game birds have not as good as turkeys, but better than us.
I think they have a lot better than us.
Yeah. And so
depends on it.
Exactly. There you go. Right there. Anything that sounds weird means predator to a game bird.
Yes.
And that's something to remember. Now, you go to some places in another state and there's 9 guys in a row and they're walking through standing or cut corn, and there's 9 other guys at the end of that field standing, waiting for the birds to come their way. There's a philosophy out there in some of those states where you want to be as a blocker, you want to be as visible as possible and as noisy as possible. In fact, a lot of those guys will pace back and forth. You're a proponent of just the opposite.
Well, I never hunt with large groups.
Yeah.
3 people maximum.
And so that may change the character of that too. But your basic idea is quiet, out of sight, so that
and move quickly as reasonable. You don't run. if you heard something running towards you, you might flush wild. You know, that scares a lot of birds. If you got a dog on point, somebody starts running towards the dog, makes the dog nervous, makes the bird nervous. You don't need to do that. You don't want to dawdle. You don't want to creep, or that can make them nervous too.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a South Dakota story where we had the landowner's nephew at the far side of the field, and he saw my dog go on point, and that at that point that dog didn't do that very often, so I was pretty stoked. But he was 100 yards away from the dog, and he snuck the whole way toward that dog. Pretty soon I had to yell at him to move along just a little bit more, and too late. That bird, that's all it took.
As soon as you open your mouth, off they go, and those pheasants sneak quicker than you do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you're not going to sneak up on them.
No,
you know, they already know where the dog is, and then they hear you coming. And if it's just a steady pace, maybe not directly at them, that helps. I think.
I've heard big game hunters say if you sound like another prey animal, like you said, steady pace, not too fast, not too slow, but if you're an elk hunter, sound like a cow elk walking through the woods.
Yeah.
Same for us, I guess.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know, and that's probably good. Early, middle, late season, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. Any time. Quiet is good. And also, getting to the hunting area, get ready before you get there. Get your vest loaded. Put the electronics on your dog. Be ready to just park, close the doors quietly, and get moving. Because the longer you dawdle, I think the birds start moving.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Let's talk a little bit about what happens as the season goes on. There are changes to the habitat. There are obviously changes to the weather, but the habitat, some of it probably is different in one way or another. Looking out at some of your hunts, what changes in the flora and the terrain?
Well, the first thing is the food sources start to change. Most of the birds are eating insects beginning of the season. That includes pheasants. And then gets cold, the insects disappear. Wind, weather, rain beats down the grasslands. So the birds move to, brushy areas, buffalo berries, choke cherries. When it gets extreme, they're in the cattails. That's the safest place in the pheasant habitat is the cattail, because when they burrow in there, nothing is going to sneak up on them because it's just too noisy. And nothing can move through cattails fast, except the pheasant.
Isn't that the truth? I sent my wire hair in once, back when I thought I was going to have the world's first German wire-haired flusher. Yeah. I sent him into a cattail stand, and this was in good weather, but there were birds in there because he'd pointed for a while. I sent him in because nobody else could get through. Yeah. And he barreled in there and bounced off. It was almost like a cartoon. And he tried 3 or 4 times, and then I just said, forget it.
Yeah, I've seen big cattail stands where I've seen pheasants go in there, and you can surround it with Labradors. They cannot get them out. Maybe a cocker or a springer can get them out. The best dog I ever saw for rooting them out of cattails was a big male springer spaniel. You'd have to spend a half hour pulling birds off him after every hunt, but he got the birds out, and if you shot one, he came back with it.
I love it. Of course, I would shoot it right over the cattails, and nobody would find it. Of course. I don't even bother anymore.
Yeah.
What you mentioned, the insects are gone. Yep. Buffalo berry, snowberries, that sort of thing. Cattails in the worst of the weather. What about just a light snow? Are they going to run into that if the temperature is low but not really low, And the snow is light, not heavy. Are they going to just live their life as if there isn't any of that?
Well, they'll run into cattails if they're dry. They don't like them if they're in standing water.
Yeah.
Or late season's usually frozen, but earlier in the season they do go in there to escape predators. So it's always worth a look, especially small stands of cattails.
Yeah, and that's a good place to probably conclude this first half. That's Al Gadoury, 6xoutfitters.com is where you learn more about his hunts in Montana for upland birds. I'm Scott Linden. This is the Upland Nation podcast. I would like to pick up on that and then go to the next step in our second half, Al, which is what are birds doing on a given day? What's their daily schedule? So focus on that while I cover a couple brief commercial messages. And then later, everybody, I'll have that Fix It segment, a dog that won't give up the bird. Boy, oh boy, do I have some advice for you, Brett. So stick around for that. We're brought to you in part by Purina Pro Plan Sport dog food. Yeah, dogs don't have very many highlights in their day, especially when it's a day at home instead of hunting. I've been watching mine, and I tell you, the highlight of many of their days, besides being around me, of course, is eating. And a dog food that they enjoy eating it's very obvious. They're trying to smile while they're eating. It's clear they're enjoying themselves. And you as an owner, as a handler of a bird dog that works hard, can know full well that food that you're feeding him, if it's Purina Pro Plan Sport, is refined and defined and formulated just for hard-working, active dogs. If you want to learn more about the science behind the nutrition, just go to ProPlansport.com. It's nutrient dense and it'll fuel your dog on every hunt. And if you're hunting, of course, you got to carry a shotgun. And if you're looking to upgrade, and you can define what that means, maybe you want to go from an over and under to a side by side. It doesn't matter. Pointershotguns.com is where you find a wide selection in all the gauges, all the configurations. Yeah. And then on top of all of that, most of them come with a variety of colors, finishes, including case hardening. So whatever your quote upgrade quote might be, they've got something for you at pointershotguns.com. Once you've made your decisions, you can go to the dealer locator, find a local independent retailer. You can go to, let's see, Bass Pro, Sportsman's Warehouse, Cabela's, Turner's Outdoorsman, other chains. They're all available at all those places and more. Learn more about all of that at pointershotguns.com. And welcome back to the Upland Nation podcast. On your left, my right, or is it the other way around? I can't tell anymore. Al Gadoury of 6X Outfitters joins me from Lewistown, Montana. Al, love that place. I was so excited. Well, the first time I went there to hunt with you, I said, the only thing this town needs is a brewery. And then poof, as if they heard me.
Yes, they have a good one.
Yeah, it is. And I've enjoyed it. Hey, you ever fish Brewery Flat, that area up there?
Yeah, I fished, the entire creek. There's a lot of fishing accesses along, it's not a very long creek. It's only about 8 to 10 miles long. There's a fishing access every mile. Plus, I think anyone would let you fish if you asked. There's no fly shops in town. Nobody writes about it. It's full of fish. It's brushy and kind of hard to get around, and it has a dark bottom, so it's very hard to spot fish in that stream. But they're there. Yeah, browns and rainbows, cutthroats. I'd say average size is about 10 to 16 inches, but wherever there's brown trout, there's always a monster, lurking somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's excellent fishing.
It's funny when I was there last, and you and I and we met Joe Augustine there.
Yeah.
He was fishing every third day for just to keep the dogs rested, or because he wanted to fish as well as hunt while he was there, and it worked out great.
Yeah,
And
he just left for
oh,
home.
I love it.
He was out for since about the 1st of September.
Yeah, I believe it. And by the way, everybody, one of the few towns where if you go to the right tavern, you pick the right table and look down through the glass top, you might see a trout down there. It's a wonderful place to start a trip and maybe celebrate a hunt or a great fishing trip as well. So Al, let's get back to late season pheasants. We talked about changes in the habitat. One of the things that I've always wondered about is what does a pheasant do all day in colder weather, in less clement weather? Do they change their schedule, or just take us to school on what pheasants do, period?
Uh, the only change is they tend to feed twice a day when it gets cold. But I think a pheasant's typical day, they're up well before sunrise. They're up and moving. They're feeding, and then they're kind of hanging around loafing. That's when they're hardest to approach. Is mid morning, mid afternoon. Later in the day, when they get on their roost, they don't want to leave. So late afternoon would be the best time to try to get close to a pheasant. But those late season birds prefer grain crops over everything else. If there's deep snow, they'll be up in the berry bushes. But they prefer corn, wheat, oats, whatever, hay, barley, whatever whatever grain crop is out there, over everything else. So you look for those areas. But that would be typical day for a pheasant. You get extremes in weather, they're going to be very jumpy. Like wind is really bad. None of the upland birds like wind. I don't think any of the game animals like it. No.
No, again, it gets back to my idea of if I'm uncomfortable out there, I bet they are too, and they're going to see what they can't pull on another layer. They have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, and the difference is nobody's trying to kill you, but they have trouble hearing, approaching danger, and I think that's why the wind spooks them so much.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Absolutely. I wrote a story on this a while back, and it's been a pet peeve of mine before that. All the stuff that we carry that makes noise, whether it's a beeper collar, cell phone. You probably have a few stories about noisemakers on your client's vest or in your client's pockets. Are there other things we should be careful about that maybe make a noise that would scare a bird?
Well, you need to have a whistle, but you don't need to have a whistle that sounds like the police are coming. The dog needs to hear it, but he's the only one that needs to hear it, and use it sparingly. A lot of people overhandle their dogs. It's generally better if you just leave them alone, let them hunt. I hunt with a lot of people with retrievers, and they see the retriever getting a little out of gun range, and they want to call him back. It's far better just to blow a sit whistle, make him sit, catch up to him, and start off. If you call him back, he's not going to want to stay there. He's going to go, when you release him, he's going to go right back to where he left off. He's not going to hunt the same cover again, and you'll be right back where you started. So that's very valuable. And the only thing the pointing dog needs to know is when you change direction. You want him to know where you're going, so he doesn't go over the hill and get lost. But I don't use a beeper unless I can't see my dog. I'll use a beep on the collar to get them to turn if they're a long ways away, and I don't want to blow that whistle that loud. That doesn't seem to spook the birds as much as a whistle might. Talking really scares birds.
Yeah, and yet we still do it. We're
Yeah,
debriefing the Monday night football game, or we're giving safety advice. Okay, keep doing that, everybody. But other than that, there's not a whole lot. In fact, one of the things that I'm trying to do now, and you mentioned when you arrive, have everything ready and be quiet about it. That's about when we develop the big picture strategy. You go out there, go this way, we'll meet you over there. Or we're all going to walk this way, and in a half hour, we should be at that spot so that we don't have to yell and exchange notes on all of that while we're in the field.
yeah.
Let,
And as far as giving instructions to your other hunters, have them repeat it back to you as many times as it takes. A special forces guy told me that. He said, "I guarantee you, the first time they repeat it back, they're going to get it wrong because they think they know what you're going to say and they're not listening." And he was right. Sometimes 3 or 4 times I have to tell them, "No, that way, or that bush, or that rock." 30 yards is 30 yards. It's not 130 yards. No.
I had a revelation running my dog earlier today. In fact, speaking of yardage, a lot of you can kill birds at 50 yards with one eye behind your back. I can't, so I need to range my birds pretty well. I don't shoot anything. I try not to shoot anything beyond about 25 yards.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I found? I have a GPS collar on my dog all the time because we're in big country and that's how it works. You can practice ranging your dog as a way to learn the range for a good shot. Just
Yes.
look at it and say, well, I think he's at about 35. Oh, no, he's not. He's at 20, whatever. So there's a tip for you. Not for you, Al. You don't need that. um, let's talk about our dogs a little bit more. Do you do anything to or for your dog when the weather starts getting colder, snowier, wetter, anything like that?
Uh, Generally, when it's cold, I'll have a neoprene vest in the truck. With my Labradors, they're fine while they're hunting,
Yeah.
but when they stop, especially the thin, light-skinned ones, they get cold. They're wet. You put that neoprene vest on them. You only have to leave it on 5 minutes. Take it off. The vest is soaked. The dog's dry. Now, I had something happen opening day. It never happened to me before. I'm running my young lab polywog. She's really thin, just a hard driver, an absolute maniac. She's like a dog
Yeah,
most of the time.
I would agree.
And we made a big loop through very wet, cold cover, and then I noticed she's stumbling. She had hypothermia. Luckily, I had one of those vests that I could put the dog in the back, carry her about a half mile back to the truck, warmed her up. She was fine. The reason she got cold was I had a fabric vest on her. The vest got wet and stayed wet, and that's what made her cold. So be careful with your protective vests. They're fine when it's dry, and you should also check the dog to make sure the vest isn't wearing, on their upper legs, because a lot of times, they'll abrade. They don't always fit every dog well. Same with the neoprene. If you
Yeah.
leave them and they're running a lot, it can abrade them. But that's something to look out for.
Oh boy, is it ever! And that's a great tip as well. On the opposite end of the calendar, I've used that. In fact, when I was chasing sharptails in Idaho earlier this season, um, I have a cooling vest,
Yeah.
and I'll put that on my dog for a few minutes at the end of the day if he's warm, and that has been soaking in the ice chest at the bottom. So a few minutes of that and he's pretty much back to normal. But if you keep it on too long, the dog's body is going to heat up the water that is in that vest and it's going to do just the opposite.
Yeah.
So that's good. And the other thing I've done, and maybe you've had to do it too with those neoprene vests, because of that fit problem, you could take a pair of scissors to those armholes, if you want to call them
Yes.
that, and just trim them out a little bit more so that there's no chafing and abrading there. Do you feed differently? Do you handle differently in
I, I
in late season?
well, all my dogs, when they were spayed, they're all females. When they were spayed, I had their stomach stapled also, so to prevent stomach twist. It's pretty simple procedure while they're spaying the dog, and because I almost lost a lab to stomach twist
Yeah.
a year ago, but we got her to the vet right away and saved her. But most people doesn't work out for them at all. So I feed my dogs just a biscuit in the morning, and then while they're hunting, every hour or so I'll give them a light snack, and then they get their big meal as soon as we stop hunting. They go right to sleep after that, and they're fine till the next morning. They're not running around. But that's worked best for me because I think it takes them about 12 hours to metabolize that food.
Yeah.
Uh,
And yeah,
yep.
and get it through their GI tract.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Boy, I love that idea of proactive stomach stapling. And I've never
Yeah. A
heard
lot of
anybody
people are
recommend
doing
that.
that now
Wow.
because those the larger dogs are prone to that. The setters get it, the Labradors get it, and generally there's nothing you can do unless you're right there at a vet emergency care clinic.
Yeah. And even they can't do something sometimes.
No, they'll lose a lot of dogs
Yeah.
to that.
It's pretty sad. And to a degree, it's avoidable. You're taking all the precautions that I would take.
Yeah,
Starting with not feeding much in the morning.
yeah, I think that's a big thing. It's
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everybody, that's Al Gadoury, 6xoutfitters.com. Learn more about him and his hunting opportunities in Montana. Wonderful place to go, Lewistown. One of the classic Carnegie libraries, by the way. Is it still a library?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been
No,
to
every
towns where
building in
it's
Lewistown is
not.
old.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful design, and I think they use the same design all over the country. But get a look at that when you're up there next. Let's talk a little bit about our shooting on a late season hunt. The birds are clearly getting up a little bit farther away because
They are in
they're
general,
freaked out.
but generally your shooting isn't any better
Not
than it
mine.
was in the early season. One of the problems I run into all the time is, I recommend hunters have improved cylinder choke for their first shot, and most people, it'd be better for their second, too. A number of people don't know what the choke is in their gun. I mean, and I wonder, what were you doing during the off season? It's not that hard to find out, but a lot of the choke tubes, they have all different codes, and they expect me to look at them and know what it is, and then they don't have the choke they need. And that I run into that a lot,
I
and
bet.
also there's a large number of hunters that have a hunting vest that's absolutely worthless. You have to take it off to put a pheasant in it because it's so awkward. And some of them won't even hold 3 pheasants. But there's a lot of nice vests out there now, a lot of very good designs, which they're similar to a good backpack. They have a big, wide belt that keeps the weight on your hips, and I carry a lot of water, so that's important to me. But those are just the 2 things I run into all the time.
Yeah.
And also another thing I run into a lot is the problems with the selective safety on a shotgun. I think that's one of the worst things you can have on a gun because so many times it gets in the middle and the gun won't go off. And you miss opportunities.
I have a friend who got a new gun on my recommendation,
Mm-hmm.
and it would not fire.
Yeah.
It was his first break open gun.
Mm-hmm.
And turns out that's exactly what it was. The gun was fine. That safety was stuck in between right and left. I mean, up and down. And he only found that out when he sent it back to be fixed.
Yeah, well, a gunsmith, most of those guns, it's not a major project to make it non-selective, because I don't think anyone ever uses that selector.
Yeah.
If you got a two-trigger gun and you're thinking about it before the bird gets up, you might be able to fire the tight barrel first, but it's the selective safety is something that's seldom used.
No, in fact,
To your advantage, anyways.
I think most of the time, if you shoot the top barrel first, it was a mistake.
Yeah.
You didn't mention shot size when you mentioned choke constriction. What are you shooting for late season birds?
Late season birds, when they're not behaving, ounce and a quarter sixes, followed by an ounce and a quarter fives. I don't think you need anything heavier than that. I don't like fours because they bust the bird up too much. But I think, and I think, heavier than an ounce and a quarter, it's overkill. You just don't need it to kill a pheasant in range. Most of my hunting, I'm using 2.5-inch shells, ounce and an eighth loads at 1250 feet per second. And that patterns really well in my guns, and it kills the birds. I'm killing them as far away as anyone else, but if they're behaving, I go to the ounce and a quarter loads.
I get it. And you're probably hitting birds at a greater distance than most of us. You still gunning for any of those spaniel trials anymore?
Haven't lately.
That's got to be an interesting challenge. I mean, I've gunned for a few hunt tests over the years and a couple retriever trials. And
yeah, it's a high pressure situation. A lot of people around, a lot of things to keep track of. They expect you to kill every bird you shoot at.
Yeah, that's why I quit doing it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been, as usual, wonderful. I wish we were doing this in person at the brewery in Lewistown, Montana, but that'll wait until next season. Al Gadoury, you're always good for great advice. This is a topic that you know inside and out, and it's very clear. You've had the experience that most of us only can hope for at some point. Hey, everybody, if you want to learn more about what Al is up to, go to 6, that's the number 6, xoutfitters.com. Al, as usual, thanks so much for being a part of the Upland Nation podcast.
I've got one more thing if you have time.
Oh, I always have time for you.
You can never trust a pheasant. A lot of people.
Let me write that down.
Yes. Yes. Don't trust a pheasant. Don't trust anybody. Write both those things down. But a lot of times, hunter shoots. Is it dead? Oh yeah, I killed it. It's dead. It's laying right there, dead. Dog goes running over to the spot, marks it well, takes off. Goes 50 yards, 100 yards, 150 yards, 200 yards, over the hill, gone. They said, you ought to call your dog back. I said, no, just wait. If it's dead, it's going to still be dead. And half the time, that bird's not dead. It's running. And the dog comes back with the bird. But if you interrupt his pursuit, it makes things a lot harder because the further that pheasant runs, the less scent there's going to be for the dog. Just leave him alone and let him hunt. Don't walk over to where the bird went down, because if it's crippled and it's sitting there, you're going to spook it. You're not going to be able to catch it. You're probably not even going to see it, and it'll be gone. But just be patient. I lose very, very few birds just by being patient. People are ready to give up too soon and just go find another bird. But if you just leave the dog alone, you're better off. Because
some people would say, well, I want my dog to be steady to wing shot and fall, except on pheasants. And for that reason.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I don't think any dog would understand that.
No. Apropos of that story, one for me, please. Nobody I've talked to, and I don't care what game bird species it is, can tell me where those birds are going to go when they hit the ground running. Have you seen any logic to that?
Yes, they're going to run in the direction they were flying, 9 times out of 10. They know where they're going. They know where they want to go. And, most of the time, that's exactly what they do.
That is, number one, so obvious. I'd slap my forehead, but I'll knock my headphones off. But nobody's ever made that point. That was worth the entire podcast discussion, although so was everything else you said. Al Gadoury, always good. I learn something every time you come on the show. Have a great season. I'll catch up with you next year. And thank you again for being part of the Upland Nation podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
I don't know about you, but I always learn something from Al Gadoury. And in that one in particular, I learned a lot. Maybe you did too. Hey, we have more coming up. I'm going to answer your question, Brett, regarding a dog that just didn't want to hand over that bird to you after the retrieve. It's coming up in just a moment in our Fix It segment. First, let's talk about Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School. This time of year, if you're like me, you're blaming your gun for all the bad shots when it's probably the gunner. And if you need a lesson, then you're heading for Western Oregon. Stop by midvalleyclays.com before you go. Schedule a lesson with one of the hunter/instructors at Mid-Valley Clays. It's not that hard to get better. Take my word for it. I've been there. I've done that. The instructors at midvalleyclays.com can give you a lesson in exactly what you're looking for. Rising shots, oncoming shots, right to left crossers, left to right crossers. Whatever your challenge is, they'll get you started with the fundamentals, and then you take it from there, one step at a time. It's worked for me. It'll work for you. Check them all out at midvalleyclays.com. And one of the things that helped me shoot is my high-vis sights. Those light pipes are just a game changer for a cross-dominant, colorblind guy like me. It allows me to see the target with my eyes and the muzzle with my subconscious. Yeah, we got to see both, but at the right proportion at the right times. With that highly visible fiber optic light pipe, you cannot miss the muzzle. When the muzzle meets the target, bang, pull the trigger. You can swap them out easily, change the color of the light pipe, put them on different shotguns. It's so simple, even a music major like me can do it. Learn more about why you've been missing. Go to highvissights.com. Well, Brett, I'm glad you're having a good season so far. Let's fix it. When that young dog of yours brings a bird almost all the way back and then tenderizes it, there are a few things you can do. Yeah, the first thing that I would do is go back to the table and teach that dog how to retrieve, starting from square one. That'll probably solve your problem. Most of the time, a good force fetch program will take care of any reluctance on the dog's part to give up the bird at the end of the retrieve. Now, why are they not doing that all the time? Well, I'll give you a perfect example because I lived it last weekend. We had 4 dogs on the ground. My dog was pointing a wing-clipped bird for 10 minutes while I tried to get my GPS handheld working again. I was walking the opposite way when somebody said, "Hey, Scott, your dog's on point over here." "Oh, he's got it." So he runs in and picks up that dead, well, not quite dead, quail. And here comes all 3 of the other dogs. All right. Well, that is competition. That's like being in the front on the day after Thanksgiving at the Target store. Everybody wants what you've got. And what do you do as a dog? Gulp. That's probably one of the reasons your dog won't bring it back immediately. Could be other things as well. It could be that they just haven't been taught enough, or they just don't want to cooperate. They haven't even learned how to come back to you. Anyway, if those are your problems and you're in the field and you don't have a lot of time and it's way past training season, you're in the middle of the hunt, don't play tug of war with that dog. That's the worst thing you can do. You might walk or run away from that dog and see if it'll come up to you, and then you can just kind of grab it in a sneaky way. You might trade a food treat for that bird. And if that won't work, you can hold the bird, blow in his nostrils, and he might open his mouth. And if that doesn't work, you can hold the bird, pinch his flank, and see if that gets him to open his mouth. All tricks that may or may not work. Remember, if you want to fix it right, you'll go back to the woe table and start working on force fetching the right way. Hope that helps, Brett. Have a great season. Well, thank you to Al Gadoury at 6X Outfitters. Al, I learn something every time we get together, whether it's over there or over here. Thank you again for being a part of our Upland Nation team. And you too, if you will please tell one person, especially about our new video version, I would appreciate it. And if you're listening via video and watching too, please remember that most of our podcasts are audio as well. And in fact, you can find a lot of audio content that is not on video. Just look me up at any of the podcast platforms. If you left a rating or a review, I appreciate that. That's how we grow. And I appreciate the comments as well. And thank you to our sponsors who make it all possible. Purina Pro Plan Sport Dog Food, Mid-Valley Clays, TruLock Choke Tubes, Pointer Shotguns, Sage and Breaker Gun Care Products, Heartland Lodge, Cable Gangs Tie-Out Systems, and High-Vis Shooting Systems. You know, it's been really fun working with you, and now here we are on video as well. Thank you for your comments and suggestions. I'm Scott Linden. Have a great season. We'll see you next time on the Upland Nation podcast.
All right, I finally got one.
Good boy. You're the best.
Good boy.
Finally.
Good dog.
Well, what a versatile dog.
Right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.